are. There's Brian. Hi.
Hey, what's up, Deb?
How are you? I was just actually giving my little spiel, welcome to DC Law. I'm Deborah Sermonaro Eldridge, the owner and attorney, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Really shiny. Thank you so much for doing this evening, Brian. I know this is kind of a little unorthodox, I'm sure, because normally you're, I've been with you at Boxing on the Beach, and
Right.
normally it's obviously a contact kind of situation.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be so great to have you on and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Weapon Brand, because, as women, especially, I think that, we tend to forget the need to learn how to protect ourselves.
Right.
And on top of that, I have a passion for working with women who are coming out of toxic relationships, and just to have that information and know, just a little bit about how to handle yourself.
Absolutely.
So.
We can make an 8-hour podcast or an 8-hour Instagram live on all this stuff.
Yeah, and you've been going from early this morning until now, so I appreciate this.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't you start with, let me tell everybody, this is Brian Anderson, one of the owners of Weapon Brand, and you actually started this company with Combat Athlete, I think it was up north, right?
Yeah. So in July of 2018, I opened Combat Athlete Performance Academy, which it's a fitness facility, but we do a lot of things. We do a lot of different martial arts. We train military prep type courses, law enforcement prep, things like that. And we're very focused on functional fitness, working with a lot of adaptive athletes, and also definitely self-defense. So it's very, very revolved around self-defense. And what happened was about 1.5 years ago, Weapon Brand was ultimately the goal. Combat Athlete was just the vessel to get to Weapon Brand, I guess you could say. So what happened was about 1.5 years ago, I called up Jamie, as I'm sure most of your viewers know, infamous Jamie, my A1, right? So I called her up, and I was coming down to Florida, and I said, man, why don't you get a few people together? And she is constantly going to those festivals, music festivals, and she's been involved in some things, and her friends have been involved in some things. So I said, why don't you let me put just a little personal safety and threat awareness course on, just kind of, customize something for you and your friends. And she put it out on Facebook, and like 30 people signed up. So right there, we both kind of saw, man, like there's a real need for it down here. And 1.5 years later, I'm living down in Florida now, and just traveling back to Kappa, back to Combat Athlete about once every other month. So. And Jamie and I are running 100 miles an hour, full speed ahead. As you've seen, Deb, I mean, we're busy every single day. So, which is a good. It's not great, because obviously people are starting to see the need for self-defense and empowerment through personal defense. But it's good for us as a business, and it's good that we're able to touch so many people and change lives.
It is. It's wonderful. It's awesome. And tell everybody a little bit about your background too, though, Brian, because you have some serious experience here.
I'm a Marine. I did some time with the United States Marine Corps, and I also worked for the state of Ohio. I worked under DRC for the state of Ohio, and then the Ohio Attorney General for a bit. And I was a full-time trainer, but I wore a lot of different hats. So from what I hear, when I left that position, they had to hire 3 people for all the responsibilities that I had. But so I'm used to going constantly, But my number one focus when I was there was creating the program for the state of Ohio for law enforcement, corrections, parole, for personal defense, and misuse of force and use of force as well. So, yeah.
And you worked with, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
You worked with abused women too, right? Victims.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was one specific course that that I would assist in teaching. It was in Columbus, Ohio, and it was usually about every other month to like I would say on average about every quarter we would put it on, and it was specific to sexually victimized and assaulted women, and It started Friday evening, and then it would end Sunday. So it was like a 2.5-day course. And man, I'm going to tell you something. It was, you want to talk about some type of gratification when you walk out of there and you just see the empowerment and just their views change of not just the world but themselves. That's huge. That was a driving force for me, and it still is.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and that's and that's what we need, and that's what you want, because in those situations they need that type of confidence and self-assuredness moving out of that. So how would you handle then a situation or tell women who are in abusive situations how to handle themselves and how to deal with that?
First and foremost, I mean, the one thing that we try to pass to everybody is, if they don't understand when they walk into a course, we most certainly make sure that we do our best to make them understand when they're leaving that they're worth it. They're worth defending. You have a lot of people. You got to think that when we have people that sign up for our courses, what would make you take a self-defense course? Typically, something has happened to you, or typically something's happened to somebody else. It's really not people that are just doing it for like insurance reasons, right? Like, oh, I better get this just in case something happens. Usually something happens. So we deal with a lot of people with trauma, and the one thing that's pretty common is when they walk in, you could tell whether, be it through personal experiences or just how they were brought up, a lot of them don't have that self-worth. And you could see that start to change. And the very first step in doing anything in that kind of situation is knowing your self-worth and knowing that you're worth it. And what we try to explain to people is, if you don't think you're worth it for yourself, think about your kids or think about the people that love you. You're worth it to them. So if you're not going to do it for yourself, then at least do it for us, the people that care about you. And if you're not going to do it for us, then do it for the next person that this person is going to abuse or this person is going to hurt. Yeah. So, and if you could just somehow just wrap your head around one of those three, then you're on the right path to then knowing that you're worth it, and then you're going to stand your ground and then draw your line in the sand.
Right. And I know that, a lot of times narcissists and sociopaths are like, don't draw, you drew that line in the sand. And so now basically it's almost like a challenge to cross it. Right. So
they test you.
Yeah. And which is the scary part, but at the same time, at some point, you have to make those decisive moves. And how, as far as when women have been put in positions, what would you say for a defensive move on how to get out of it? I know we're online, but
yeah. So I could explain this actually without even doing like some crazy cool technique, because it's actually pretty easy to understand. But before we even get to a move, which a lot of times we call just the magic trick, right? Understanding something as simple as your hands being here. We do 4 nonviolent postures that we teach our clients. Hand on chin, arms folded, an interview posture, if you could see my hands down here, and then ultimately the defensive posture. You could ask, if you and I were shown a picture of somebody doing this to somebody, and I asked you who the aggressor was, ultimately it's going to be the person pointing, right? However, if you see this in that picture, you're going to say, well, it was the person that this person was interacting with, right? This typically isn't the person that's the aggressor. So understanding that, and if everybody could see that and take a picture and look at that picture and know that this means I don't want whatever you have coming, so does that potential attacker or abuser, right? So if people listening, if they could just understand that once you start to feel with your gut, with your intuition, and see things change in the face, jaw clenching, eyes widening, fist clenching, face being pale or flushed, and you start to put this up, you're sending a message not just to that person, but to everybody else also, that, hey, I don't want what this person has giving to me, right? And to move on to that magic trick, the awesome thing about having your hands right here is your gun is up, your muzzle's up. So from right here, I could easily go straight to the eyes. If that individual then crosses my line in the sand after I've said, back up, please leave me alone, please take some time, whatever you're trying to say to that individual, even if you can't get words out, if you're in that freeze moment, this alone shows that person you're in a defensive type of posture. And if they move forward, these hands go forward. So what we teach is how to be offensively defensive, meaning we take the fight to the fighter. But it's only after we can't get away. So ultimately, what I would tell anybody listening in that kind of situation is, first and foremost, always try to find an escape route. If you can't find an escape route, the one fight that we never lose is the fight we don't get in, right? So if you could get away, man, get away any way you can. Call your friends, call 911, call your family, get help some way, right? But first, get away. It's kind of like in the flight attendants for the airplane, where they tell you put your mask on first before you save somebody else. Same thing. Save yourself first before you let anybody else know or make them aware, because they're just going to be reacting to it. You're the one in the situation. But to answer your question directly, Deb, the magic trick is take those fingers and dig them straight into the eyes and go
That's
right to the eyes.
I've always learned. Let me ask you this then. And you had some interesting points, and I tend to stand obviously like this with my hands crossed, especially if I'm, in a situation where I'm not comfortable. But you also said something about your hand on your chin, I think you said, or what's...
So if I just show you, leave back up here, if I just show you hand on chin, it's easy to get to that defensive posture, right?
Okay.
Arms
gotcha.
forward, defensive. There's a common denominator. The common denominator is no matter where I'm coming from, those nonviolent postures, my hands are above my waist and they're in front of me.
Okay,
so,
hands above your waist and in front of you.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Okay. We're human, so we're going to cross our arms instead of fold them, and we're going to have our hands in our pockets and things like that. We're human beings, so we get comfy, right? The only thing is what we try to put out there is the second that you start to trust in your intuition, start to trust what you see, and things just don't seem right. Get those hands out, get them active, get them up, and there's even a modified version of a defensive posture. If I'm just doing this, we have a trainer who's a dear friend of mine also. Her name's Terry. We call her Cherry Danger. And she has been through, she's been through the ringer. She's a cancer survivor, scuba diver, black belt in Taekwondo. She's trained under me for just under 5 years. And she's an instructor up at Kappa, combat athlete. And this may be because I mess with her quite a bit, but she is consistently having her hands right here. So no matter if I'm close, her hands are right here. She's talking to me that way because it's an easy, defensive type of move. So, but we learn a lesson from that. I mean, if you're not used to carrying yourself that way, and you don't want to go straight to a defensive posture, do a modified version of it. Just keep your hands up here, talk.
Right.
I hate to stereotype, but if you're Italian, you're probably talking with your hands, right?
Always.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so use that to your advantage.
Right. So they're always here.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, because my abuser infamously would do chokeholds from behind.
Yeah.
So how would somebody, for me, I had to find a weak spot.
Yes.
In him, which you can imagine what that was.
Yes.
And that would be the only way for me to get out of that situation, unless he just chose to let me go. So what would be your advice for that?
In our self-defense level 2, we do choke escapes, and we spend some time on that. And just a few points without actually showing the actual techniques to that. A couple things to know about chokeholds. First of all, what a real chokehold is. A chokehold is a position that you're put in to where either to make it an effective chokehold, the sides of your neck are compressed, making it difficult for you to get blood and oxygen to your brain, and then an air choke directly in the front.
Yeah.
So if you understand that, the one thing that you could start to train yourself in doing is, once again, if your hands are up and they're ready, instead of fighting off that arm or that hand that's coming to your throat, actually cover your own neck. protect your neck this way. And they're not going to be able to get that good, effective type of hold in. So, and that actually comes from a lot of jiu-jitsu techniques, and where we actually train. This is constant. I'm constantly doing this if this could be a threat, right? And the next thing, you hit the nail on the head, Deb, when you said find those weak areas. You know, one thing that people, there's a misconception about chokeholds. And I can tell you, it's good and bad, right? The good news is, we'll start with the bad. The bad news, when you get into a chokehold, it's actually really difficult to get out of.
And scary.
Unless you're fighting dirty. If you're fighting dirty, it becomes a little easier, right? Which you can't do in MMA and jiu-jitsu and any type of combat sport because it's illegal, right? So if you think, well, if something is illegal in that kind of a sport where almost anything goes, that's probably what I want to go to, right? So the other thing, the good part about it is, it's actually, as long as you're moving, it's actually really difficult to be put into a chokehold. If you're moving and protecting your neck, it's difficult for that person to apply an effective chokehold.
Right.
They can hold you, they could grab you, but for them to actually cut the blood off or cut the air off, it's a little bit more difficult than what the movies show, you know.
Right. But if they come from behind,
yes,
and then
I would do
really
the same exact thing. I would keep my hands up, protecting my neck, putting the brakes on it, and then you hit the nail on the head, like we said. Find that soft spot. And here's a misconception: a lot of people will think that you're striking to the groin. Forget that. Your dump of adrenaline and cortisol is going to cover that. Yep, you got it. So we call it the doorknob method, right? You grab it like a doorknob, you twist it, you pull it like you're walking through the door, and you let go when you're ready, not when they're ready.
Interesting. You
can do that from the back. If somebody's behind you grabbing, you can drop one of those hands and find that. And even you looking for it, trying to find that, it's going to send a message. They're going to send their hips back, which if they send their hips back, think their eyes come forward, I'm going straight to their eyes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good information.
Good question.
I know we're gonna thank you. I don't know if anybody, we've got a lot of people joining. I don't know if anybody has any questions online, but I would love and I know that you're doing a lot of group sessions, right? You do group sessions if we wanted to get a bunch of women together or girls together. And I think this would be really great for, moms and daughters to do. Together. And even, you've worked with my son, right? I mean, boys too could stand, some self-defense lessons as well. That might be a really cool thing maybe to put together.
We taught those classes, and it's pretty shocking to see that there's very few self-defense offerings out there that actually have mom and daughter, or mom and son, or father, a parent and a child. It's really, you don't find that too often. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. We were doing it was some kind of an event where we were selling some merchandise and selling some packages for people, and we were asking people about self-defense, and we had an individual. He was a military personnel. It was him and his buddy, and they had 3 kids combined together. 2 of them were the one individual I was talking to, and I asked him, I said, what about self-defense? He's like, I was in the military, I'm good, as we usually get, especially the guys. The guys are, and I'm a guy, I'm telling you, so they're typically full of ego, right? It's mind-blowing because they buy these packages for their mothers, their wives, their girlfriends, their sisters, and it's like, if you knew it, then you'd be teaching them. So why don't you take the class too? They're like, I'm okay, bro. So we get that all the time, right? But there are some. There's more and more actually showing up, and that's so responsible of them. But anyway, back to the story. The individual said, he said, I'm okay. I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, just throwing it out there. I said, what would you do if I was your attacker and I attacked you with your kids? Because everybody always pictures just being attacked alone, and you could tell it kind of threw him off a little bit. He didn't like it. He didn't like that question. He made him a little bit defensive, because I think it made him a little bit uncomfortable, probably because he's never encountered that before. And he said to me, well, I would put my kids over here, and then we would. I'm like, well, no, I wouldn't allow you to do that. And he couldn't wrap his mind around that. so many people, you know, we always say the body can't go where the mind's never been. But what I'm hoping is just that conversation for that individual that day, even though he hasn't sought our services, he at least looked for something with that in mind, that, look, if somebody attacks me, they're going to use my children. They're going to use my children to get to me. And that's what bad guys do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So protecting them. So yeah, it would be, I'll go ahead and I'll put your information, of course, and also link to you guys when we finish this live, because I think it'd be wonderful, you know, for women to get together and do this. I think really, if you think about it, it's so important for so many types of professions. I mean, state attorneys, judges, I mean, honestly, everybody needs this, you know, because you can't, especially nowadays, Brian.
Right, absolutely.
We're living
yeah, and you know, we make it fun too. There's a lot of people that are so scared of taking classes, and we try to explain a lot of them are just lecture based. You know, we have our personal safety and threat awareness class. We call it creating a weapon mindset. It's all lecture based, but whether it's lecture based or it's an actual physical class, man, we have a blast. Like, people, it's already a really serious topic, so we are serious during the class, but we're also, as you see, I get picked on quite a bit, so I can take it. But you know, we make it fun, so people leave, they have a great time, and you can tell their confidence level is at an all-time high, and they're always coming back. You know, we have at least 95% of the people that are our clients are repeat offenders. So that's great for us.
I believe that. Yeah, definitely. And by the way, they also have on Wednesdays, at least right now, you have boxing on the beach in the morning.
Yep,
Madeira Beach, right. And then in the evening at Gulfport Beach. Right.
You got it. 6 p.m.
Yeah.
We
6
call
p.m.
it
Right.
boxing right now.
I know. I won't be able to make it tomorrow, which I'm disappointed, but definitely back to it next week. I love it. I went one night, everybody, and it was fabulous. And it's a good workout too.
It is. It is. It's fun too.
Jabbing and learning that stuff. And I think your first time is free, and then what is it, $5, $10 after that? So
what did you say, Deb?
It's your first time is free, right? And then after that, it's like $5 or $10 or 15.
First time is free, and then it's 15 after that.
15.
Yeah,
right. So
15 bucks a session, which is, it's totally worth it. It's about 45 minutes of a good workout. You're learning a little bit a different form of self-defense, but it's still self-defense nonetheless. Yeah. But we have a blast. We crank up the tunes a little bit.
You do.
You're on the beach. You're on the beach clock.
Oh my God, it was so beautiful that day with the moon and everything. But I really appreciate you joining us, Brian. Thank you so much for doing this tonight. And again, I'll put your information in the comments and everything, so everybody has that. And do you have any parting thoughts that you want to share with women who might be in abusive situations?
Just know you're worth it. You're worth it, and if you're not worth it to yourself, you're worth it to your family, the people that love you. And you know, if you're not worth it, if you don't think you're even worth it to them, say you're a complete lone wolf, you're solo dolo, as we say, right? Well, save the next person. So stand up for them. So